Hey everyone, I'm Jet from inthirdperson.com, a personal look at video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. And I love my Nintendo Switch. I bet you do too. And one of the reasons I love it so much is that it's got so many amazing indie games on there. Titles like Celeste, Shovel Knight, Hollow Knight, the SteamWorld series. Those, along with Nintendo's first-party games, have really gone a long way to define my enjoyment of the platform. And I didn't want to talk about those today, though. Those are amazing games. A lot has been said. We can kind of move on from that. What I wanted to discuss in this video are some of the more overlooked indie games, some of the ones that are slept on, some of the ones that got buried in the eShop because there's so many games on there and it's really hard to get the great stuff out of there. So let's use this video to talk about a couple of indie games that you might have missed. So before we do that, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and let's get into 4 Switch indie games that you might have missed. My first pick is 20XX. Yes, I know this looks like a Mega Man clone, but there's more to it than that. 20XX is Mega Man mixed with roguelike elements. So you're getting randomized levels each time you play. You're getting randomized power-ups in different spots, and you might not get the same power-ups from one run to the next. One time you're getting the double jump, another time you might be getting the air dash, and you're not going to know until you get in there which power-ups you're going to get. The boss order is different from one run to the next. You'll get a choice of 3 bosses after you beat the first one, and you've got to change up your strategies depending on what order you take the bosses on in. Yeah, it was a little awkward there. But one of my favorite things about the game as well is that there are some really sketchy power-ups you can find that min-max your character in really crazy ways. And I love this game because it takes this really familiar concept of Mega Man and adds these roguelike elements to it that make it feel very different, very fresh, very unique. And on top of all that, you can also play it as a 2-player co-op game, either with a buddy on the couch or play it online. I know you can get the Mega Man games on the eShop right now, the old ones and the new Mega Man 11, but if you were to just pick one Mega Man-like game, I would recommend 20XX. It's a little cheaper, it's a lot more fresher, and it's arguably the better game. Except for Mega Man 2, I love Mega Man 2. Next up on the list is actually the game that inspired this list in the first place, and that's Fantasy Strike. This game is designed by David Sirlin, who's a former competitive Street Fighter player, who's also the executive producer of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, and is also the creator of a card game called Yomi. And I actually discovered this game years ago, and it's one of my favorite card games, tabletop games out there, because it does an amazing job of translating the experience of playing a fighting game as a card game. And Fantasy Strike takes this card game and finally brings it full circle and makes it into a fighting game proper. Now, whether you're a seasoned veteran of fighting games or you're a newcomer, both audiences can have a great time. As a competitive player, there are a lot of crazy moves, and it's been very intentionally designed to have a lot of the tactics that you would expect to work in a competitive grade fighting game in there. The balance is great. Definitely lots of combos and tricks to explore with the numerous characters that have wildly different playstyles from one another. And as a newcomer, you get the benefit of playing a fighting game with simplified controls. You're doing sort of Smash Bros type inputs to get special moves out. You don't have to worry about high-low blocking. It has this really neat frame data feature in the game where you can kind of see immediately as it happens how much frame advantage you have. I guess that's more of a hardcore player feature than a new player feature, but as a new player, it does a great job of easing you into the experience and teaching you how to get better at fighting games, and I really appreciate that side of Fantasy Strike as well. On top of that, it's a pretty feature-complete game with a whole host of single-player modes, training modes, and online modes. You can play online with friends across different platforms. Yes, it has cross-platform play. And it's even got this really cool ranked mode where you have to excel with multiple characters in order to win a set against another opponent. And I think it's really cool and different and unlike anything I've played in any other fighting game. So Fantasy Strike, whether you are an experienced veteran or a newcomer to the genre, I highly recommend checking this one out. This next game is heavily inspired by Castlevania, but it's not Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. It's actually its companion game that came out quite a ways before in Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Unlike that new game, which was heavily inspired by Symphony of the Night Castlevania, Curse of the Moon is actually more in line with the classic Castlevania games with the 8-bit graphics and the chip tunes, and I had a blast playing this one. It really felt like a trip down memory lane playing those old classic Castlevania games on the NES, and I really enjoyed my time with it, and I'm kind of getting the itch to play this again looking at this footage. So if you've got the urge to play a classic Castlevania style game, I highly recommend Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. The last game on my list of Nintendo Switch indie games that you might have missed is a little bit of a reach. You might know this one. It was a critically acclaimed game that was won a bunch of awards, but it is making its way to other platforms now, so I wanted to make sure I gave it a shout just in case you don't have a Nintendo Switch, or you do have a Nintendo Switch and still manage to miss this game anyway. And the game I'm talking about is Grease. This is a gorgeous platformer with beautiful graphics and amazing soundtrack, and it plays very much in the style of Journey, where you're not really killing enemies or there's no real violence at all. It's more about adventure and exploring the world and having the game tell you this really beautiful story without saying any words at all. If it doesn't make you cry by the end, you have no soul. And even for me, I'm someone who I despise the game Journey. But Grease is a game that I love. I feel like there's a little more in terms of gameplay and things to do from moment to moment to keep things interesting. But on top of that, it still looks gorgeous, it sounds incredible, and it tells a beautiful story while saying very little. So there you have it. That is 4 Nintendo Switch indie games that you might have missed. Maybe you didn't, that's awesome. If you did, make sure to go to the eShop and grab those because they're all amazing games worthy of your time. Did I miss anything? I'm sure I missed some. There are tons of incredible indie games on the Switch, and I would love to see your suggestions in the comments. I would love to try more great indie games. I'm sure that other people watching this would love your suggestions as well. So make sure to throw some suggestions in the comments. Alright, that's going to wrap it up for this video. This is hopefully, fingers crossed, the first of many I hope to do on this channel. I want to make this channel a lot better, put some more original content out here, and I know I've got a lot of work to do to make this better, work out my process, get some ideas, actually sit down here and make these videos. It's really easy for me to sit down here and stream, but to come out here with an idea and record it all for you on the internet and edit it, it's been really intimidating for me. But I feel really good doing this now, and I know this isn't the perfect video, but I hope to get better with practice. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like. If you didn't, please don't dislike it, and let me know. Feedback in the comments section appreciated as well. And before I go, just wanted to plug a couple of things real quick. Make sure to check out my website, inthirdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. I stream on Twitch every week at inthirdperson, and you can find me on social media, on Twitter and on Instagram at inthirdperson as well. And I think that's going to do it. Alright, so until the next time I do one of these, hopefully sooner rather than later, I hope to see you around. Take it easy. Bye! Thanks, I love that What? The game disc could not be read? Are you serious? Man, we were just at the... Okay.